Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mac McHenrick, the Executive Director for our Community Engagement Reintegration Service, SERS, and our Strategic Facility and Master Planning Office. I wanted to welcome you to the Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System, where we have a little over 388 acres of land at our West LA campus, and we also have 10 other sites of care, 2 ambulatory care centers, and a whole bunch of CBOCs all the way up to San Luis Obispo, over to Kern County and Bakersfield, Lancaster. We have them all the way down the coast, ending up in Oxnard, and all the way down here in East LA and San Gabriel Valley. Santa Maria is one of our newer ones. I want to talk to you, however, about what's going on with our homeless programs and mostly our property here, what we're doing. Developing over 1,200 units of supportive and permanent housing here on the West LA campus, as well as revitalizing the medical center and all the other assets we have on the South campus for a new enhanced medical center here at Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System. We are not necessarily the largest, we're probably in the top 3 or 4 in the nation, but we are by far the most complex with all of our land use issues, our homeless veteran support programs, and the redevelopment of our South Campus Medical Center. Let me walk you through a couple different sites and show you what I'm talking about. We've got a great history here and a great mission, and I just want to share it with you. Welcome to the Care, Treatment, and Rehabilitative Services Initiative in SERS. This initiative has been referred to as a tent city. What it is where veterans who are dealing with COVID and are sleeping on the streets can come in and, as you can see, bring their own tents. Doesn't matter what size or shape, we can work with them. We have built platforms for up to 100 tents with social distancing in a clean environment, with restrooms, hand washing stations, the ability to receive donated meals every day with snacks and water. So veterans can live here in a clean environment. They can take a shower as well as getting their laundry done once a week. But the 100 veterans on platforms, socially distanced, can stay in this environment, with some areas here on this hard stand parking lot for those veterans that are disabled and not able to get out onto the grand lawn. So this is a great initiative to help veterans during this COVID period with their own tents or donated tents that we have in storage here that we can give them, so that they can survive the COVID period in a clean, safe environment and get all of the care, treatment, and rehabilitative services they need. From here, we work with them daily with their medical needs, mental health needs, and we move them into a bridge home or into the domiciliary, or some of them need to go to the hospital for their treatments and come back, or go into another interim temporary housing situation. Their goal is to eventually get a HUD-VASH voucher and get to permanent housing. We appreciate all of the support from the community that help us feed these veterans. This is Care, Treatment, and Rehabilitative Services. Welcome to A Bridge Home. A Bridge Home is one of our sites that was built in conjunction with the City and County of LA. A Bridge Home has 100 beds for veterans. The beds are limited to 60 during COVID, but we have a great service provider, Carlos Lopez and Associates, that is helping us manage A Bridge Home. It is an emergency shelter, low barrier entry for our veterans. Veterans come to the Welcome Center and get referred to A Bridge Home. This is one of many sites around the city where they provide this type of service to veterans, an essential service during this COVID period. The West LA campus is a prime spot to do supportive housing for veterans because we have the 388 acres to not only do our essential critical healthcare mission, but to also do supportive housing on the North Campus. The acreage on the North Campus has a lot of older buildings that haven't been maintained since the 1970s because the VA, after receiving many veterans' homes over the years from the 1800s to the 1900s, and then eventually in the 1950s deciding that they would focus on health care and integrate veterans into the community, that the veterans' homes would no longer bring veterans to live on the campuses unless they had a significant medical need. Now, with homelessness being a huge issue across the nation, we know that it's an issue in this environment, and the draft master plan in 2016 that we've been working to fulfill dictated that there be at least 1,200 units of supportive housing on this campus. And we have the place to do it, the need, the desire, and the drive to get there. This is the courtyard of Building 209, which is behind me, Building 208 and 205. These three buildings form a core area where we will use enhanced use leases to bring in veterans and supportive services. Building 209 has 54 units of supportable permanent housing for veterans. It was built, turned over by the VA in 2017, and has been operating at capacity ever since. We have started construction on Building 208 and 205. These two buildings are similar to 209 in design and layout, with a west and east wing, north and south for the other building, but there's 120 units of housing between these two buildings, which will get us up to 164 units. Construction's underway now, and you'll see some of that in a moment. So this is one of our first efforts to really get this moving in this area, after having to wait 2 years for our environmental study statement, which took the entire campus and took 2 years for us to do after the draft master plan was developed. So here we go. We're on track now, and we're moving forward towards our 1,200 housing unit goal. Hello, here we are at Building 207. Remember, we started with 209, we have 208, 205, now we're at 207, a little further away, but the same design, a central building with two wings, one on the left, one on the right. 207 just cleared financials and is on their way under the principal developer to start construction. Building 207 will provide 62 units of supportive housing for veterans. 207 is a little different in the census in that they're going to allow veterans in who are Vietnam era 65 and older. Welcome to MacArthur Field. MacArthur Field on the northwest side of the West LA VA campus, but just to the east of what we call the Arroyo, which is a little bit of a culvert that's pretty steep that runs down the west side of the campus, leaving Barrington Village Park, leaving a couple of parking lots on the west side, kind of cut off from the west of the campus. But what's important about MacArthur Field, and I wanted to bring you here, is that we have new construction scheduled for MacArthur Field, 148 units of supportive housing for veterans. So that's in addition to the other supportive housing I just talked about. 2 phases on MacArthur Field. Phase 1 for half of the housing. So you can do the math, right? 74 units of supportive housing on this site in one building in phase 1, and then 74 more in phase 2. So over the next 5 years, you will see 2 new buildings come up here with 148 units of supportive housing, on top of the housing we just talked about at 209, 208, and 205. Welcome to the West LA domiciliary. We have 198 beds available when it's not COVID, but because of COVID, we're down to less than 120 beds available. But we're in the second wave of COVID right now. Things are increasing, so we're limiting even more. What we did when COVID started back in March and April is we kept building 217 as a domiciliary, but used building 214 for COVID isolation. Veterans who needed to self-isolate because of preconditions, or those that were suspected of having COVID and were waiting their tests results, as well as veterans who had COVID and needed to wait out their 14-day isolation period. We use Building 214. Since then, in the last few months, we've brought that back online, but now we need to go backwards. We need to again use Building 214 as isolation. So our DOM is about 120 residents right now. We'll try and maintain that as we go forward. The domiciliary area right here around me is really the courtyard between the two buildings. In this area, we're going to develop a healing garden over the next year with all kinds of activity areas for the veterans, an outside classroom, an outside exercise area, a walking path around it, and off of the end of Building 214, we will have a female veterans area, which will be a gated area just for the female veterans and the domiciliary programs. This courtyard between the two domiciliary buildings is less than an acre in size and is the great refuge for the veterans and the programs here each day. They need to come into this area and relax. They need to work with peer support for their programs. This is an area that has a lot of potential for 289 residents in this area. We don't necessarily need more housing right in this area. What we need is an area for the veterans to heal, to recover, to work with their peers and work with those supporting the programs to make sure they're successful when they leave the domiciliary. Here is the Wadsworth Chapel here on the West LA VA campus. This chapel was built in 1900 on this spot and provided non-denominational services where you could have two different services on each side of the chapel almost going on at the same time. Although it was built in the 1900s and it looks a little bit needing of some TLC today, the chapel itself was damaged in the Sylmar earthquake in 1971 and has been closed since then. What you might not know about the chapel is it's the oldest structure on Wilshire Boulevard, running from the ocean all the way back up into LA. So this is a very historic site. We are in the process of, we have advertised and we've received a bid from an organization that's going to work over the next several years to raise funds and to restore the chapel. We hope in the agreement that we might sign that we'll have services for veterans in the chapel and we'll be able to provide counseling and well-being for veterans. A very important piece of building the community here on the West LA campus, and especially for the North Campus, where we'll have those 1,200 units of supportive and permanent housing. Welcome to the South Campus. Here we are. I'm looking at the site behind you, in front of me, of the new Critical Care Center, the new bed tower. Behind me is our new kitchen under construction. We're also going to have, just to the west of the new bed tower, a new ambulatory care center. We will also have a new central power unit in this area. This is all to increase the services to the veterans in an upgraded environment. This will probably take us 10 to 15 years to work through all of this construction. We're also going to have 2 parking garages. Both of those will be for veterans and employees, not for visitors who may ride a metro station, which is scheduled to come to this area. We'll have a Metro Purple stop to get everyone to this new vitalized campus. Welcome. Here I am, almost at the intersection on South Campus of Dowling and Bouncell Avenue. From this vantage point, we can see our current Building 500 Critical Care Center. Just to the south and west is where we plan to build the new Critical Care Center. Off a little to the west of that is where the new Ambulatory Care Center will be. And over there will also be the Consolidated Research Center. Up in that area, we'll probably have a new parking garage. Where I'm standing near this corner might be our other parking garage. We were over a little further east where the kitchen is, the new kitchen. I just wanted to show you where all of this is going to take place on the South Campus. Welcome to Streetcar Depot. Streetcar Depot is one of our historic sites. It was built in the 1900s, the same time as the Wadsworth Chapel on Wilshire Boulevard by the same architect. Streetcar Depot was used to bring veterans onto the campus as well as take veterans into the community to ensure we had integration with our nearby community. It also allowed family members and workers to get to the community as well as to get home off the West LA campus. Streetcar Depot was added, as well as Wadsworth Chapel, to the National Historic Sites list in 1972. We're very proud of Streetcar Depot, but I've been waiting here a long time and no streetcars come by. But stay with me, I have a new 21st century solution in store for you. Here I am next to parking lot 42, looking at our building 500 medical center, and right over my left shoulder is the on-ramp to Wilshire Boulevard. This is the area out here where Metro proposes putting a new stop on the Purple Line, the last stop. For a Metro station right here for our veterans to access their care and our employees to come and go with ease and not have to fight the LA traffic. That was a quick tour around the campus here at West LA. I hope you appreciated all the information about our different homeless supportive services and the vision we have through our master plan and the aspect of what needs to be part of our master plan for the South Campus to include Metro, our new hospital, our new ambulatory care center, our new consolidated research center, and all those support services as far as parking garages and a central power utility center. So we're going to get all that together here in the next, starting yesterday, but all the way up through the next 25 years or so. So construction after construction to make us bigger and better for our veterans here. Thanks for spending some time with me. It was great to have you along.